videos. So many new features in StreamYard. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our October movie club. I am joined here by a spooky ghost and Beckett. For Halloween, I guess. Before we get started in our discussion, I am going to take care of a little bit of housekeeping rules here, like I do every time. So everybody knows, this is one of 3 multimedia clubs that we have at the Dragonfly Arts Collective. We have this movie club as well as an album listening club, and these are monthly clubs. We actually had our music club last week, so that discussion is up and you can actually go listen to it now. And then we have a quarterly book club, which this is the end of our quarter. I pulled down the poll for our next quarter's pick. So we will be both announcing our new pick and discussing our current pick on the 1st of November. So you can join us for our book club. We read Dracula. And that ties into our current book, or our current movie club, which I will get into a little bit once we actually start the discussion. Before I do that, I need to put up some, links on the screen. So we are Dragonfly Arts. You can find us on Facebook, which is the vast majority of the things that we offer can be found on that Facebook group. We don't just do these multimedia clubs. We also have some other weekly calls. We have a Coffee and Creatives call where we discuss creative problems that creatives encounter. That was a lot of saying the word creatives. We also have feedback calls, and it's a Facebook group that is full of creatives and people that work in the creative industry. So if you have problems that you'd like to discuss with people that are also in that realm, you can go there to ask questions or promote work that you have currently going on. And if you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. Right now, everything that we offer is for free. You just have to join our Facebook group. It is a closed Facebook group, so you do have to request to join. But once you're in that, you have access to all of our meetups, all of our meetings, all of our information, all of our clubs. But all of that still costs money. So if you'd like to support us and support what we do, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. And on that note, if you're watching this on the replay and you would like to join in one of the discussion, if you leave a comment, we can actually still see those even after the discussion has closed for tonight. So we will always want to discuss these with you. And also our new media picks will be posted on the 1st. That was, I really need to write it down and just have a script to go through for that one. But
you did great.
Without further ado, this month we watched Nosferatu the Vampyre, which is actually a tie-in between our previous book club pick and our current book club pick. Our current book club pick is Dracula, and our last book club pick was a memoir by Werner Herzog. So Nosferatu the Vampyre is Werner Herzog's Dracula adaptation from 1979. So it felt like a good tie-in. It also feels like it's not really stepping on the toes of our book club, because it turns out that they did not have the rights to Dracula when they started this. So they based it on the movie Nosferatu, the 1922, I think, adaptation of Dracula. And there are a lot of parallels between that movie and this movie, but he had to change the plot pretty drastically.
Yeah, there are going to be spoilers for this movie in this discussion, but not so much for the book Dracula.
Yeah, I think anything that could possibly spoil the book Dracula has been spoiled for you before. I don't think there's any new information that's going. They go very different directions.
Yes.
So, was this your guys' first time watching this movie?
Yep.
Yeah, I had not seen this version of Nosferatu. I'd seen the 30s version, but not the 70s.
Have
How
And
about
I was going to say, we have a 2025 version coming out soon.
2024? It's like
This
released.
year?
Yeah, it's released in like a month. There's a few Dracula movies. I think earlier this year we had The Last Voyage of the Demeter as well.
Yeah, I did
Uh,
see that.
Yeah. So this movie was released in 1979, and even in 1979 alone, there were 4 Dracula movies. So super popular topic. But I did want to ask if this was your first Werner Herzog movie.
Actually, yeah. I think I mentioned in our book club discussion about his memoir that I've never actually seen any of his films. So,
Are you
For
trying to
someone-
remember, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm loading up his filmography now. I had to have seen something of his.
I actually hadn't watched anything of Werner Herzog's until we read his book, and then I purposely went out and watched Fitzcarraldo.
I do want to watch that. Yeah.
But I think the one that if we wanted to like dive into his filmmaking, we should have watched Aguirre, The Wrath of God, which is the one that he talks about a lot himself. So at least as far as narratives go, he does like a lot of documentary stuff. That is an entirely different realm.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, what were your thoughts on the movie?
So watching this movie felt like watching a student film, which from what I know of his like directing style and his whole filmmaking style is very on brand for him because he's a guerrilla filmmaker. That's kind of what he does.
There were definitely some of those shots where like Ryan and I were like, I don't know if they got permits to shoot here.
No, definitely not.
Like you're shooting this in a very like a way that makes me feel like you did not have the proper permits to shoot in this location.
No, and he talks in his memoir a lot about how he would just go places with a camera and hope not to get caught.
Yep. What were your thoughts, Ryan?
There were certain shots that were very good, but overall, I did not really enjoy this movie. If I went in without knowing anything about Dracula, like I've not seen any vampire content before, I would have been extremely lost, as things just kind of happened and no one cared about anything. I think we talked about it during, but Harker, was it Jonathan?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Harker.
Yeah, so I guess in the book, which again, no spoilers, but he picks up on things and it happens more gradual. In the movie, it's like, no, bro, leave. This dude's weird and he bit you the first night. You should go. I don't care how much your commission is.
He like sucks on his thumb like very aggressively, like
Yeah. And then kind of like stares him down and backs him into a corner. And it's like,
and then he just kind of falls asleep in the chair, like in the middle of a conversation.
Now, that said, if this movie was just Dracula and Renfield, that's the movie for me, because those two, thank you. Dracula doing like, I think there's one scene where they interact, and I really enjoyed the dynamic between the character actor playing Dracula and the character actor playing Renfield, and it was that's where the movie should have been, or at least more scenes of that.
Yeah, I actually want to spend time talking about both Klaus Kinski and Roland Topar.
Dracula's great. I mean, he was creepy, and his the facial performance was fantastic. Jonathan Harker, and I did like Lucy Harker, her portrayal of just. I think I made a joke that Dracula got scared because he found someone on his level, where she's just because he's talking about like time is an endless thing that will kill us all, and she's like, maybe time should kill us all, and he just like freaked out.
She also just stares with her eyes really wide the entire time, like he does. Like I don't think anyone blinked in this movie. There
Yeah.
was like a really, really long take with Klaus Kinski, and he did not blink once. Like, it was like to the point where I was like, is he blinking when I'm blinking?
Or they could do, what was the Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp, where they removed his blinks and like ticks and stuff, so he just kind of like stared. Anyway.
The reason I wanted to talk about Klaus Kinski is because he is well known for being the lead in, I think, almost every single Werner Herzog narrative.
Yeah, that's something that stood out to me when I put this movie on, and I recognized a lot of the names in the pre-roll credits because he mentions these people and he works with them constantly in all of his films.
Yeah. Klaus Kinski is also the lead in Fitzcarraldo, and I think he's also the lead in Aguirre.
And
He's
I
a
remember
very
him
common
mentioning
face to see, and he has a very distinct face. So,
yeah, and Bruno Ganz is in a lot of his movies too.
yeah, I don't really recognize Bruno Ganz as much as I recognize Klaus Kinski. I also learned a fun fact about Roland Topper, who is the man who played Renfield and did a fantastic job. Absolutely best character. Anytime he was on the screen, like A+. Would have watched an entire movie of just him. But Roland Topper is actually an illustrator, and is his biggest work that he wrote and then did a lot of the production set on is a movie called Fantastic Planet that I watched not very long ago for the first time. I had never seen it. It's a French animated like sci-fi movie in which very human creatures, they're not humans, but they're very clearly humans, live on a planet where the main life form is something else, and it's just the humans rising up against it. And it's a very, very trippy movie. And I just thought that was really interesting because I was like, man, Roland Topper did a very good job in this. What else is he in? And they were like, no, he's a surrealist artist. And they showed his work, and I was like, wait 1 second. I have almost picked Fantastic Planet as a movie club pick. But I just thought that was a really interesting thing that I learned earlier today, and I really wanted to tell everyone about because it was just an interesting line that got drawn for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of the people that Herzog put in a lot of his movies that were like the narrative films, not as documentaries, obviously, are they just do other things. Like, they're not actors.
And it kind of shows.
Yeah, I got that vibe.
Yeah, I loved Isabella Gianni. She was great. I loved her in this movie.
Yeah. Everybody in Werner Herzog movies just kind of have the vibe of they just learned the script. They said it once, and Werner Herzog just goes, fantastic, moving on.
Well, I know for this film, they actually said it twice in German and English. And then in the edit, they picked which one worked better and then dubbed it.
Dubbed it over. Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of overdubbing.
Yeah.
Which is a method. I guess the German one is more authentic.
Yeah. Well, because that's what the language most of them speak. So
yeah, they're all either German or French.
Mm-hmm.
From like a standpoint of like watching the visuals, like not a very clear line of like style going through them. It has like a very vibe of like, let's see what we can do in this location and just figuring it out as you go. I think even just like looking at this image of Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu, which beautiful lighting, beautiful color, very like distinctive like style, and then like this looks like an entirely different movie.
Well, I think this one is shot to reproduce the original 1930. Like this framing, and there were a couple instances of that where they intentionally, and again the style of Nosferatu there of Dracul, they want it's weird because some of the sets they had were massive. Like in the town where they barricaded everything on the first floor. and had like the run of the town was pretty
Although
impressive.
at one point Ryan goes, I think there's a lady in the back wearing blue jeans.
Yeah. Well, listen, we can't always control everything the background does. And then
Yeah, I thought some of the shots in this movie were very funny to me as I was watching, because it very much felt like, okay, like he went to his actors and was like, we're gonna go at sunrise into this random square and we're just gonna film you looking around. And that's what the shot was.
That square scene is the most art film goddamn scene.
right. Oh, you mean
I
everyone
have-
carrying coffins and her running? I know what's causing this.
Yeah,
No,
and
I
it's
think
just like
the
people having a meal while
overhead
rats eat at
one-
their feet.
Oh, the
overhead
later
shot
one.
Yeah.
with the everyone in a town square having a party because they're all dying of the plague.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was so random. It felt like, what is happening?
Yeah. I think a lot of this movie, and it felt to me like he was trying to push some sort of like, idea, right, of something, but I'm never quite sure what the philosophical thing he's trying to say is. Right, like
Yeah, I don't know if there was one, as much as he was like, I want to make a Dracula because I really like the 1922 Dracula movie. Like, I really liked Nosferatu. Let's make that, and then, oops, we can't actually just do a shot for shot on Nosferatu. It's kind of what it feels like.
yeah.
Some other fun things, some fun facts. Klaus Kinski, it took him 4 hours a day to get into this makeup.
Doesn't surprise me.
And also, he wanted to play Dracula a lot more energetic. And he was informed that he couldn't by Werner Herzog, who then would provoke him into having a massive tantrum so that he would be exhausted when it came time to shoot his scenes.
Oh God, that's some.
It is just a fascinating method, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like,
yeah,
it is. So in my head, this is just Werner Herzog making him really angry while he's having his makeup done, is how that plays out in my head.
it's very Kubrick of trying to just torment your actors to get a specific response.
Specific reaction. Yeah,
I do have one neat tidbit is on the movie Groundhog Day, the director, what's his face, Egon, he knew that working with Bill Murray that he gets angrier as the shoot goes on, so they shot the him happy scenes from the end of the movie first so that Bill Murray was happy, and then the him upset later, because he knew by the end of the shooting Bill Murray was going to be upset.
And
so it's kind of that, but like nice, in my head at least, of just like, instead of tormenting
your actor's strengths.
Yes, right. Knowing your friend's good enough that he's going to be pretty irritable. Let's do the step in water scene last.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, a little tangent.
It has been stated by Werner Herzog that the rats that appeared in the film behaved better than Klaus Kinski during the shoots.
The rats
Wow.
were very, very well behaved, and they were so cute. Although that one shot of her walking up the chapel steps with all the rats around, I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
not a fan of rats.
No, I like them. I would be afraid they would bite my ankles or something.
Well, they're a better actor,
Stepping through a bunch of rats, it just seems risky.
So this movie, universally, I mean, like critics and fans seem to really like it according to Rotten Tomatoes. I don't get it though.
I could see it having a weird cult following, and this might fall into the category of we've approached it too late in time.
Right.
I think Werner Herzog already had a little bit of a following at this, and like I love bad movies, like really, really bad movies. And I could see this almost falling into the category of them. Like, it's definitely more art house. It's definitely got a lot more finesse to it. But it just like has this quality of, yeah, guerrilla warfare in a filmmaking standpoint that is kind of on par with like a lot of the movies that I've watched that are not super fantastic.
Yeah, I think this movie definitely has its merits. Even now, like because I'm not, I hadn't seen it before, and I'm a huge fan of Dracula just overall, but I didn't even know about how far the story deviates from the original source material. So I was a little confused, but it has a lot of redeeming points where like there were a couple scenes that were legitimately funny and like really interesting in the way they were shot and things like that. Like I really liked a lot of the dark light contrast, especially the scene where he's like provoking her in the mirror. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
That was a good scene, yeah. I just felt like the movie didn't feel like it was a build as much as it was kind of a drone. Like, if there weren't like peaks and valleys to this movie, it just kind of felt like Jonathan Harker stumbling into a thing, and then he just kind of like stumbles out of he falls out of a window, which was hilarious, and wakes up the next day, and then wanders into the camp, and meanwhile, what's her face, the lady, Lucy has a premonition because I guess she's close to death and kind of gothy. I don't know why, and then he makes it to town, and the plague happens, and that's important. But is it like does he want a house or not? I'm so confused. What's like the Dracula's motives are like.
Yeah, because he doesn't even move into the house, does he?
And the house isn't even habitable. Like,
no.
There's a difference between an old house and a dilapidated house. And this was a dilapidated house. Like, you could see from one floor to the other, and there was no roof. Like,
right.
That's not a house. What were they selling him?
And so it's one of those where like they set up this. There weren't stakes really. They lost, right? Like the whole town died of the plague. I mean, spoilers.
He died, and spoiler alert: Jonathan becomes the next Nosferatu. So,
right.
The good guys do not win in this movie.
The good guys don't win, but it's not like I need to run back to save my wife from the vampire. He just kind of moseys in, and he forgets about her because of Dracula, and Dracula just kind of like stalks her for a little bit and kills literally everyone else. Again, I didn't have anything to grab onto in this movie.
I was trying to figure out the plague aspect for like the vast majority. Like, what is?
I don't know.
Okay, great. You're sending Renfield to Latvia to spread the plague. Well, you spread what is your goal? Like, is your goal to kill everybody? Because I thought you needed them to eat.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I thought at first when the plague like aspect was introduced, I thought it was like, oh, Dracula's killing all these people. Like he's, it's not actually the plague. It's that he's sucking them dry and killing them. And they just are attributing it to the plague. But then there were all these rats, and then it was actually the plague. So it was very confusing.
There's a line that he has to sleep in unconsecrated graveyard dirt that has the plague in it. And I don't know why.
I missed that.
Yeah.
It was like a throwaway line that I think somebody reads in the book.
Oh, I see. So he wants...
Which I have questions, because he's not the only Nosferatu.
So he wants to kill everyone of the plague so that he has a lot of places to sleep, I guess.
Look, if I had to make a bunch of places to sleep, like, I get it.
Because this version, because there's a lot of different like versions of Dracula, right? Like the curse of immortality, as I think the thing, and in his portrayal is, oh no, I'm not cursed I get to live forever, but I don't get to love. That's my curse. And again, there was nothing for me to grab onto. I think we spent more time with Dracula than anyone else.
Yeah, there was no climax to this movie.
No. I'm also very confused about what they were trying to ship on the Demeter in the first place. Like, just a bunch of dirt. They were we need to open this. Up, it's dirt and some rats. Perfect. And then just keep floating.
The shipment said it was dirt for horticultural research. So that's why they're like, well, let's check it just to be sure. And the one they opened didn't contain a vampire. So, yay. But also...
What would they have done if it did?
And then you got that weird scene where he like pokes the dirt and a rat bites him, I guess. It's hard. Yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of this feels like maybe they should have done a take 2.
That's how the plague begins to spread.
Right. But on the boat, it wasn't the plague. That was actually Dracula.
Yeah. It was a little all over the place, the plot of this movie.
I also think that this movie is a little impressive with how it uses light in such dark environments for parts of it, because I mean, I would struggle with that with like a digital setup, and the fact that it's like all film and like they had to physically change out the film sets to get like what must be like 2400 ISO at one point. Like,
oh yeah, there was some film grain.
There was a lot of grain going on with there. But I was most impressed by the slow motion shots of bats, because that feels, and I found the note on it. So the exceedingly difficult slow motion shots of bats in flight were not shot by Werner Herzog's crew, but borrowed from a scientific documentary.
That makes
sense. So they struggled so hard, because I was like, are they just throwing the bats? Because like that's how... It would have to be like when we watched The Dictator and like all the cats just suddenly get thrown out of a door. Like, how do you film the bats? They couldn't. I wonder if they tried.
I'm sure they did. Well, I know. Let's see. Some other things is the opening scene was a bunch of mummies that he shot himself, that he took out of the glass cases and filmed illegally, because of course he did. But they died of cholera. So I think, again, it feels like there was something here about like human nature, like because the what's his face, the vampire hunter Van Helsing was like, no, we're scientific. We can rationalize this.
Yeah. Well, in this movie, he's not a vampire hunter. He's just a doctor, a random doctor. Not
yet. I feel like he just started his vampire killing career.
Yeah. It turns out this is actually a prequel. The crew on this was 16 people.
Yeah, that kind of tracks.
The production designer was also their chef.
Huh. How many days did they shoot this?
Also, wait, I also had another question about the plot that bothered me throughout this entire movie. But what is the geography of this world? We're taking a boat to Germany from Romania is faster than walking.
Right, than horseback. Because it was 4 weeks on horseback.
But also just what is because you have to go around like most of Europe in order to do that. I guess they do go over like a river at some point, but like I don't understand the path that they took.
Well, I don't think Wismar, Germany exists, right?
I think it might be a real city.
Yeah, no, Wismar's a city.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So if I
on the Danube.
You know what this movie did? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say it's north. So he would have had to go up through a river into the Baltic Sea and then over.
I want to take this. I want to add a laugh track to this movie because there are a couple like one-liners that Dracula drops that are like, it's like, oh, it takes longer by land. Wink. You know what this one did do though? I will say they gave Lucy Lucy more things to do, and Jonathan Harker was useless.
It kind of works like that in the book too, though.
Oh, okay.
the original source material, it's also kind of, well, Lucy is a different character. Lucy in
It's
this
Mina.
movie is
Yeah.
a combination of Lucy and Mina,
Yeah.
but Mina is the name of the maid in this that just is killed.
I know. I felt
outright.
sorry for in the original, like in the book Dracula, Mina is Jonathan's wife, and she's kind of the main character of the whole
Oh,
book.
absolutely.
And then in this one, she gets downgraded to a maid.
Again, he didn't have rights to Mina Harker, so he made Lucy Harker.
Lucy Harker makes sense to me. Like, you're combining the two female characters, the beautiful woman that like Dracula's really interested in, and then like Mina, who is the glue holding this entire thing together. Combining the two of them, that's fine, but just why include Mina as a name? Like, it kind of just feels like a weird throwaway.
It's a little wink.
Yeah, there was another thing I was going to bring up for this that I can't remember now.
I like that all prints of this movie were supposed to be destroyed. It was as part of the lawsuits that they lost the lawsuit.
Oh.
And so they were supposed to destroy every copy of it. But some prints survived, and when Florence Stoker died and the copyright expired, they just started to reprint it.
This was included among 1,001 movies you must see before you die, making it the only movie where there's the original and the remake are included on the list.
Oh, interesting. I need to go back and watch the original. It
also
is because I remember that one being more, again, I watched that in film school, and that one was more about a tension thing, right? Like you were building this mysterious, but I just might not remember, but I don't think the original Nosferatu takes it all the way to the, I don't know how far into the book it gets, because I really only remember when they kind of just meet him. That might be me.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Haven't seen it.
Now, well, we need to watch not only the original In the Shadow of Vampire, which I've been pushing for a while. Shadow of Vampire is a parody, or like it's a mockumentary about the making of the original Nosferatu, in the idea that they find a vampire and they use him to make the movie, but it's the making of that movie, but he's a real vampire. And it's Willem Dafoe,
John Malkovich, and
John Malkovich. And I can't remember who's creepier.
Yeah, I was like, who's the vampire in this? It could be either one. This could go either way. We've dissolved this into like just a series of interesting facts about it, because it is kind of like a movie that just feels like a bunch of interesting facts that somehow we managed to get.
Very much like his book, it feels like just a bunch of tableaus cut and pasted together. Like, it doesn't feel like a cohesive story so much as just, oh, this would be a cool shot. Let's put this together.
I wonder if there was a screenplay and then a difference in shooting, and then they put it all together in editing, and we're like, good enough. But Klaus Kinski also played Nosferatu in 1988 in an Italian horror film, Nosferatu.
Yeah, now I want to watch the 1992 Dracula, which I've never seen.
There are so many Dracula movies. Like, I feel like you could make it your life's goal to just watch every single one of them. And I'm interested where this falls on like pure things that say that they are adaptations of Dracula. Because like vampires,
I've heard that one specifically is a pretty faithful adaptation. So I should make a point to watch it.
Oh, which, the original Nosferatu?
No.
Sorry.
The 92 Dracula.
See, because I think, because I think what happened is they made in 1920, they made in 19 whatever, they made the Nosferatu original 1922 based on, so it's kind of like playing telephone on Stoker's Dracula. So they change a little things, like he's not Dracula, he's Max Schreck, or he's Count Orlok. Sorry, Max Schreck is the actor. And so this is a remake of that one. So it's telephone.
And it's important to note that his name is Orlok in this movie.
Is it?
Yeah, they don't call him Nosferatu, which I guess is just how you say vampire in Romanian.
Yeah, but I thought he's Dracula.
No,
Yeah,
it's Orlok Dracula, I think. They call him the Count most of the time, but they do go with the Orlok.
Yeah, he's listed as Count Dracula. I'm pretty sure they call him Dracula.
I think they also call him Orlok.
Maybe.
I don't remember.
Orlok Dracula's a name.
Listen, he's European. What I mean, it's
whatever.
Yeah.
This is another funny thing that I always remember from the original that I brought up with Ryan, and I felt the need to bring it up, even though it's like not really anything. So I always think it's funny in the book that Jonathan Harker is like racist. He goes through, he has very low opinions of both Romani and Slovak. And I'm Slovak. My grandparents are from Slovakia. So I'm very in tune with that. And it made me laugh that when he talks about Slovaks in the book, he describes them repeatedly as saying they're barbaric large belts and just talking about how thick their leather belts are. And as soon as like in this, Jonathan Harker he's going through Romania and the guy comes out and he's wearing this thick leather belt. I'm like, yeah, the belts.
I loved the scene where he's in the inn and he's like, bring me my dinner. And then he's like, where are you going? Oh, the castle of Count Dracula. And everybody just stops and looks at him.
Including a goose.
Including the goose.
Huge fan of the goose. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be a very long conversation. I don't actually have anything else to add to this. This movie was more of a tie-in between our two book clubs, where I think most of the discussions will happen. But I did think that it was a very good tie-in for those. But do either of you have anything that you would like to add to this discussion?
I do think and it being a product of its time, obviously we have horror films now that are, much scarier, but, I can imagine that dinner scene, and not having seen something like that before, maybe watching that in like 1979, that was legitimately scary. Like him kind of stalking down Jonathan and you don't really know what he's going to do. Yeah, that was freaky. There should have been more. Hey, Herzog, my one note, there should have been more moments like that.
I agree. It also wasn't shot very scary because if I remember correctly, that scene plays out in a wide.
Yeah.
For the majority of it, and it feels like you punch in, give me some build some of the tension, and it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And just lets it play yep.
There
and then he
a lot
cuts
of
himself
scenes
with a butter knife. Sure.
There are a lot of scenes that are just left to play out for much longer than you expect.
Oh my
them
god,
to.
the shot of the carriage riding down and it just goes forever, and it's like, dude, you could have cut that into a third of the time.
I do really enjoy can I have a ride in your carriage? What carriage? I don't have a carriage.
That was good, yeah.
Well, can I have a horse? I have no horses. And he's just sitting there petting a horse that's attached to a carriage.
I guess I'll walk.
And then he just walks off for 7 minutes.
Through the geese. There's all this open space and then a group of geese. And he's like, guess I'll just walk through this group of geese instead of all the open space around. I don't know. I was weirdly upset with him for that.
He was given a path, and like a true actor, he followed it.
Werner Herzog leads in and he goes, you see those geese? Aim for them.
Just walk away.
We're using them as the focal point. So
yeah, no, I really enjoyed this movie. Especially, I think I enjoyed it a lot more knowing what I know about Werner Herzog. So if I hadn't had that context, I don't think I would have liked it.
Interesting.
I am on the fence, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think it was a very good movie. I don't think I would recommend it to people.
Yeah, I don't think as a whole it's a good movie, quote unquote, but it definitely has moments.
But I think it did have an impact on me in some way. Like I'll probably think about aspects of it. So
yeah, it has these moments that like stick with me, and like, you know, like I said, it's a series of tableaus, so some of those stand out.
Some of the shots were like there's a shot where he's stalking not Mina, Lisa, whatever. Lucy outside the house, and his shadow comes across, and again I think that's a recreation of an original one, and it's like that shot, fantastic, love that. And again, I think probably the best shot is him coming. The door opens, we don't see his reflection, and then he enters the frame, and she's just talking to him into the mirror, or
yeah, I thought it was a great scene.
But then we have just the boat just rolling into town and just hitting the thing and just
sitting in and getting stopped by a tree branch because
it's just like it's kind of a miracle this movie ever got finished. I guess he wanted to shoot in Transylvania. They said no because of political stuff. They wanted to shoot in Wismar, and they said no because he wanted to use 11,000 rats, and they said no, you're not going to bring 11,000 rats into our city. So they shot it in Delft, Netherlands.
That makes sense. I actually thought they started in like the Netherlands,
and then Dracula's home is Czechoslovakia. So basically, he didn't get anything he wanted. He's like, screw it, we'll just shoot it here. I need 11,000 rats. Do you?
It's very it's like a student film. That's what the feeling that this movie gives me.
Yeah. Bigger budget. It's $1.4 million.
Was it in 1979? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
so bright.
Sorry, suddenly.
I don't know how much it grossed though.
Yeah, it doesn't have a list of how much it grossed at all.
I know it made money. It was considered a financial and critical success. Oh God, it's right on that screen too.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to turn this one to a darker slide for you?
No, you're fine.
Bring you some sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you pointed out earlier, Rebecca, like I think that by the time this movie was made, Werner Herzog already had sort of a following, so it, people went to see it largely because of that, probably.
Yeah. Also, I think Dracula movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what the time frame. There were 5 other movies that were released this year, including like some pretty big ones. Salem's Lot was released in 1979. So
what a much better movie.
Not technically a Dracula movie, just a vampire movie.
Right.
So I am trying to find his list of films because this is actually surprisingly early on in his career. It's after Aguirre, the Wrath of God. It's after Strozek, which I think were 2 of his like really big early ones. So it's still pretty early on. I don't know what the draw was for this. But like I said, I don't have anything else. So unless you guys have things to add, I might end the conversation for the evening. But we will be back on Friday to discuss Dracula.
The OG.
The OG Dracula. And I'm sure we'll bring up some more comparisons then. But thank you guys for joining me this evening, and I hope you guys have a happy Halloween, and I'll check you out on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Blah.